the Ridges, previously known as the Athens Lunatic Asylum, is famous among Ohio University students. The other week I ran into a friend who recently graduated from OU, and when the conversation turned to spooky things, the summer is the classic time to tell ghost stories after all. He told me about the particular creepy part of this seemingly human outline is permanently emblazoned on the top floor of the ward's N20. That's right, it's not spray painted on. It's been there for decades. The story goes that in 1978, back when the facility was still active as a mental asylum, a patient named Margaret Schilling abruptly disappeared. The hospital employees searched for weeks, but it wasn't until over a month, on January 12, 1979, that she was discovered. Strangely, she was found on the top of the closed-off abandoned ward, number 20. Had previously been housed to extremely infectious patients and was no longer in use. There are claims that she was either already completely decomposed or simply she had clearly been dead for weeks. But the main point still remains. She had apparently, soon after her disappearance, somehow ended up in Ward N20, where she completely disrobed before lying down on the floor and dying. The official cause was determined to be heart failure, and some people assume that Ward N20 was unheated. She could have frozen to death on the Ohio's bitter winter. Why she chose to lie down in such an orderly fashion before her death, and why she initially went to the abandoned ward, and why she stayed there until her death. These are all, of course, questions with answers unknown. As for the stain, it's explained best by Jessica Castle. Quote, "It's more of a photograph negative than a stain. As you can see in my photos, there are windows in front of the stain. As her body decomposed, the fluids were constantly passed over and over again by the sunlight from the windows, developing a photograph of sorts." The story has been featured on TV programs, notably Fox's Scariest Places on Earth, but unfortunately I can't find the episode online anywhere. And these programs have been added to what is most likely nothing more than an embellishment. Supposedly, a girl went on one of the ghost tours of the Ridges, where she touched Margaret's stain. The rumour goes that she was then claimed by a Margaret spirit and was eventually driven to suicide over the possession. This part of the story is at best unsubstantiated, and worse, simply fluff created by Fox, but it's still creepy enough to include here. I thought I'd take this creepypasta on to like another road, because it only ends saying that about Margaret, but he goes on to say that there are more things about it. So what I did is I went to ForgottenHio.com, and then we're going to read some stories by the people who have experienced or went into this so-called haunted asylum. So now that we've got into ghost stories, some say that Margaret Schilling wanders the building at night. They said that other patients, especially those who died in the hospital, wander around the building at night. Rumours about patients chained in the basement add fuel to the kind of things. Once I spoke to someone who knew a guy who saw the shackles of the basement, and next to them a message screwed on the wall. I know it was crazy. Maintenance workers told us that several of the window sills were drawings and carvings left behind by a patient, but medieval cellar chainings are probably just stories. My own internal tour of the Ridges was in the late summer of 2012. My friend Jen and I went into the main building during her school hours and looked through the museum for a while. Then we snuck up the stairs past the velvet rope, began to poke around on the upper floor, all of which are either still abandoned or very early stages of renovation. Jen's criminal skills got us into the upper floors, where we found the wing of several rooms, closets, fireplaces, tall windows and balconies. The main room had a psychological chart of bell curve hanging on the wall. We climbed two different ladders, one into the upper chamber of the tower, one into the tiny square of the roof of the peak. The photo below is a terrible roof shot that I took while trying not to fall down. So that was our ghost hunt of the Ridges. Not much to tell, except it was really interesting to see closed off portions of the building. Later we wandered around into the office and we were kicked out by an angry geography teacher. The spot above you see the spot where legend has it City of Athens hung the criminals more than a century ago. Whether or not the story is true, reportedly haunted spots of the grounds. The other haunted places of the Ridges in the Asylum Cemetery.